Okay, and that brings up a good point. Did he have a godly father who nurtured him in the way of the Lord? That's a question linked to the good things about his reign. But did Josiah have a godly father? What do we know? I see a hand, but I can't see who it is.
Sister Catherine.
Hi. Oh, hi, Sister Kathy.
I'll stand up.
Oh, yeah, now I can see you.
I was just
saying, Brother Jonathan, Lord bless. It's great seeing both of you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't believe his father was godly. I think, in just a simple word, he was a good king in a very, a very long list of not so good kings. So if you want to just put that in a simple thing, he was one of the good kings.
Okay, he was one of the good kings, and his father was declared. If we read about this in 2 Chronicles 34 and 35, that would take up most of the study. So we're not going to be able to read that together. But if we look back in the chapter before, no, his father was not good. As Sister Kathy said, from a long line of not good kings. Anything else? Just taking the big overview as to why Josiah is commendable. We've
Brother Richard.
Yes.
This is Sister Sandy.
Hi, Sister Sandy.
He had a mother who was very influential, and she taught him the godly life, I think.
I think you're right, Sister Sandy. That is what made the difference in the life of this of this young man. And while we're in the share screen mode, I am just going to bring up two graphics. Then we're going to go. Then I'm going to get off of that. So just let me bring that up for a second here. There we go. And let's see. This should do it. So,
Brother Richard, I have one more comment from the floor. Well,
oh yes, let's hear that.
Okay.
Who's speaking?
Brother Richard, this is Sister Donna Burke.
Oh, hi, Sister Donna.
Hi, Brother Richard. I just wanted to say one of the things that in him reestablishing and reading the law is he also reestablished the celebration of the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, what was remarkable about the coronation of Josiah? What do we see that's unusual here looking at the account from 2 Chronicles 34? Does anybody have a thought? He was kind of young, don't you say? He was kind of young, 8 years old. And he sought after the Lord, and as Sister Sandy said, he must have had some good influence. We know for sure it wasn't from his father, so we would think it's from his mother. Now, we find out that in the 12th year of his reign, now that would put him at the age of 20, he started to directly get involved with breaking down the groves and the images in the high places. So I'm going to move out of this back to our study mode, and destroying not only those but the images of Baal. It talked about all the different idolatry that he attacked. So we're going to move back out of this. Stop sharing. There we go. And looking at this, the way the comments were presented was he found the book of the Lord. Isn't that pretty incredible? Yes. That it should have been lost. Now, when we look at the account, technically, it was the priests who are named, who found the book of the Lord and then brought it to him, but he absolutely made sure that he understood what was in there once that came into his hands. Well, these are the high points from the high level view of his reign. Can we take some lessons from this immediately into our consecrated living today? What can we take from the pictures that we see, the lessons we see in Josiah? He's not a type, but he is a good example. Okay, Brother Gary.
It's really cool you can see us here, brother. Nice to see you, Brother Richard. Yeah, I was going to make a comment, but this will go along with this, is when we start following the Lord, even prior to our consecration, it's important that we realize the inherent sin that we were born in. And so I would say that, the lesson of Josiah, one of the things I had written down in answer was at age 20, he began purging Judah and Jerusalem of its uncleanness. It looks like it took 6 years to do that. So he persevered in that. And so we need to persevere. That's just the comment I wanted to say.
Okay, but Gary, before we let you go, let's go back six years. That, as you say, it's a long time. Any lesson that you can see in the fact that he was personally involved? He just didn't send a delegation around.
I don't know what to say. It's
Okay.
It's to me making a commitment. He made a commitment. And he didn't let it slip away from him. I mean, it's a serious thing when we make that commitment to consecration and to walk in our Lord's footsteps. Okay,
very good. Anything else? I see a hand, but it's hidden. So let's try to. Who do we have? Who do we have?
Richard. Oh, this is Sister Vicki Allison.
Hi, Sister Vicki.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
What I get out of this is when he was 20 years old, his convictions were crystallized. His character was crystallized in so much that it went beyond his territory, his dominion, into other territories. So I think that's what we need to work on too, is our crystallization of our character.
Okay. Very good point. I see we've got a comment from Sister Gretchen. Good seeing you online, Sister Gretchen. Oh, you know what? I think we're going to have to unmute so that we can get the participation from, I don't know if Gretchen can unmute. Gretchen's still muted. There we go.
Brother Richard.
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry I couldn't unmute, but they did allow that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment, first of all, just a few other things with Josiah. At this time, as most of the brethren have stated, you've got the two kingdoms going on, with Israel with the 10 tribes and Judah with the 2, with Benjamin and Judah. And we're coming to almost the end of the reign of the kings, because just one king after Josiah's will be Zedekiah. And you've got the captivity going on. But, in relation to the question that you asked, it's kind of all of our job to proclaim the kingdom that we're all professed to do. It's not somebody else's, because one class is really good in witnessing. Your class doesn't have to do it, or you don't personally have to do it. It's all of our job to do it. And Josiah was a very good king, but he comes into a line of kings that have not been so good on both sides, in Israel and in Judah. There's been a few that have come on off and on that have done fairly good, and not a very good environment, because there was so much worshiping of false gods at that time. And it's almost like when the good one comes in, almost to the end of his reign, he's getting rid of what the old king did. So Josiah had his hands full, and we all do too, because it's our mission is to proclaim the gospel and to do what we all can do individually. Thank you.
Okay, and Gretchen, before you go, let me just ask on the point you're making. he was a very good king. He had the support of certainly of the priests in the temple and some good people around him. Was he able to effect all the reform that the Lord would have been pleased with? What do you think?
I'm not really 100% sure. I'm reading, with the group we're in the book of Kings right now, and we're kind of more towards the top of the reign than
Okay.
the bottom. So, it's just, we're seeing so much, it's just like, we know that Israel was chosen as God's people.
Yeah.
But I think if it wasn't for Abraham, he was like, why did I choose these people? They are just going off. It's a constant situation. And there's so much, at this point, there's a lot of wars, as there was previously. There's a lot of wars going on and families being killed and another family coming in, especially with the kings of Israel. But I just think it was a really hard time, because it wasn't, like I said before, that it wasn't too much after this where the kings stopped, because Zedekiah being the last king,
Yeah.
that, God was going to choose a different way. And so.
Okay, thank you very much for those additional comments. So, as and part of, there's two reasons for taking this topic. One is that this is definitely a positive time for the kingdom of Judah, and as Sister Gretchen pointed out, you were almost towards the end of the kings of that group of kings. Sister Gretchen mentioned the bad kings in Israel. Well, the 10-tribe kingdom didn't even exist at this point. The Assyrians had already taken them captive, moved them out of the land, and replaced them with the group we call the Samaritans. So, the kingdom, the kingdom focuses on the two tribes that are faithful, which is Benjamin and Judah. Of course, the Levitical priests that also stayed faithful, and there's a number of lessons as we go through the Kings that should be an excellent study, and we're maybe going to just keep this as an open question, because we always want to get to the so what. The history is interesting and important, and how can we learn from it is equally interesting and important. I showed some slides of how Josiah fought against Baal, but I'm wondering, can we get one more? Is there any more comments before we go to question number 2? Yes, please.
Hi, Brother Richard. This is Brother Ken.
Oh, hi, Brother Ken.
Yeah, and when I read in 2 Kings 22:1 about Josiah, not only was his mother's name listed, but his grandmother's name was listed also. And their names, his mother's name was Jedediah, which was beloved. And she was the daughter of Adiah, Jehovah has blessed. And so what I thought about with this, we go back all the way. It says that there was no greater Passover instituted since the days of Samuel, when Samuel instituted the Passover. And so this was a revival. But just as in Samuel, the influence, it didn't go to his sons because his son did evil in his eyes, but to his grandson Heman, who was set up a singer in the court of Solomon. So we see that the effects that the fathers and the families had upon people could skip generations and was generational. But it's interesting that Samuel's grandson was one of the wisest men in all of Israel and served in the courts. And then when you go down, you get to Hezekiah and see another great king, that when Hezekiah and Sennacherib, when Sennacherib come to take over Judah, that was stayed by Hezekiah's faith. And so all these revivals brought on a time of repentance for Israel, but ultimately Israel did fall in the reign of Zedekiah. But there was so much good that came out of these revivals. You know, we see that all the prophets from Samuel spoke of this day, you know, on up to John the Baptist. And so when we look at that great picture, that what we do for our generation, it counts not only in this generation, but for the next generation. Just as in our opening meeting, as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. And I had something real interesting to say, but I forgot it. So that's enough.
Well, listen, if you remember, just come back on, raise your hand. Thank you for that, Brother Ken. And let's think of Timothy. There's another example where we have not only a godly mother, but the godly grandmother. For me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's the dads can make all kinds of decisions, and that's great. But believe me, it doesn't work well without mom. It doesn't work well without mom getting linked in, or grandparents. And I know a number of us are in a position where, we may be the only influence for the truth amongst our grandchildren, because the children have decided on other things. And, that'll be something they'll rethink at some point. Yes. Is that Brother Todd?
Yeah, this is Todd Alexander. Thank you for this excellent service. That was going to be my comment about Josiah's mother being the one that faithfully taught him the truth. And also somebody else said it, that I think it's really important, that he executed on it. And so obviously the good ground was found in his heart that God could work with, and he acted on it. I really like the idea that we're responsible for our grandchildren and our children as much as we can. And for anybody who's interested, Brother Joe Ludwinka does a Bible story session every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. He really does a great job engaging the children in Bible stories. So 5:30, if you want to know the Zoom meeting information, let me know. But it's for children, 8 to 18.
Thank you, Brother Todd. And I had mentioned last night, for the studies that we're doing in the Chicago class, we have been getting participation from some of the young people from not only outside of the Chicago class, but from outside of the continent. We're getting links from Europe, links from India, and brethren, we've got to keep those coals warm by keeping them together, and not, if they're spread apart, they're just going to kind of peter out at some point. So these are all good comments. I'd like to specifically have that 1 Kings 13 read, and maybe we'll call on, let's see, some of our online. We want our online brethren to know that we haven't forgotten about them. So Sister Ann Baum, if you're available, could we ask you to read that 1 Kings 13, 1-3 for us, please? You'll have to unmute Sister Ann. I don't even know if she's there, but if she is.
Yeah, it wasn't going to let me unmute, but now, okay, I'm sorry, what was the scripture?
The scripture would be 1 Kings 13, 1-3.
Just one second. I can't find my glasses.
Okay.
Oh my, oh my. Oh, okay, wait a second. Okay, First Kings
13, 1-3.
Okay, First King 13, 1-3. By the word of the Lord, a man of God came from Judah to Bethel, as Jeroboam was standing by the altar to make an offering. He cried out against the altar by the word of the Lord, "Oh, altar, altar. This is what the Lord says. A son named Josiah will be born to the house of David. On you he will sacrifice the priests of the high places who now make offerings here, and human bones be burned on you." That same day, the man of God gave a sign. This is the sign the Lord has declared. The altar will be split apart, and the ashes on it will be poured out.
Okay, so this is, we'll just take a look at this for a minute. What's the remarkable thing that we learned from, or a couple remarkable things we learned from 1 Kings 13? What do we learn from this? Now, this is the time of Jeroboam, so that goes way back. It looks like Gary.
Yeah, this is really cool when I read that. So I'm glad you had that scripture, because I mean, it was prophetic. It reminds me of Jesus, the prophecy of the Messiah. So Josiah was prophesied that he would be born, he would do this. So this takes me back to his mother and grandmother. They probably informed him when he was old enough to know this, what his responsibility was going to be, because it was prophesied. And he took hold of the reins of that at an early age and worked on fulfilling that prophecy.
Okay, good point, Gary. And along with that, who would have named him, right? But that would have been, by the way, just to stir the pot here, if you actually watch about who gets the naming privileges in the Bible, nowadays it's consensus, dad, mom. It's typically mom. Dad sometimes overrules, as happened in the case of Benjamin being slightly changed from the name mom gave. But I think we see mom and grandma in this, seeing a prophecy being fulfilled. And here he was, prophesied by name. So this is very significant when we take a look at what was happening during the reign of Jeroboam. First of all, real quick background, and those of you that have read through the Kings, who is Jeroboam? Obviously not a good king, but where was he reigning? Where was Jeroboam reigning? Was he a king in
10-tribe kingdom?
Where?
The 10-tribe kingdom.
The 10-tribe kingdom. Okay, so he was one of the bad kings. He was actually the bad king that started the 10-tribe kingdom, although if we get into the scriptures, this thing was from the Lord. But that's a different study. Anything else about this passage that we want to take away as a lesson before we look at that next passage from 2 Kings 23? Okay. Sister Kathy Freer, because I know you're in the audience there, could we ask you to read that 2 Kings 23, 15 to 17 for us, please?
Where are we?
You want me to hold it?
15 through 17, you said?
Yes, please.
Okay. So they laid hands on her, and when she was come to the entering of the house,
No, 2 Kings 23. Starting with verse 15.
I'm so sorry, I was in Chronicles. I think because I was Laura, it was, okay, I apologize. We seem to have problems getting everybody reading on the right place. Okay, 2 Kings 23:15. I'm there. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, the workers, I'm not in the right place either. Man.
You're dropping out there.
I'm lost. Okay, starting at 23 or 24. I'm so sorry.
Starting in chapter 23 of 2 Kings, verse 15 to 17.
Gosh, I really am off. I am so sorry. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel and the high place which Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, both the altar and the high place, he brake down and burned the high place and stamped it small to powder and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar, and polluted it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words.
Okay. And do read verse 17 also. Could you please, Sister Kathy?
Sure. Then he said, what title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, it is the sepulchre of the man of God, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Bethel.
Okay. Well, I don't think Sister Gretchen's gotten to this point in the reading. Otherwise, there's a really, really powerful story here about the man of God who prophesied these things, but I don't know, just as if anybody wants to give a 30 seconds on that account from the earlier in the book, what happened? Yes, please. Yes.
What happened was the prophet that has no name, Josephus named him as Jaden, and he prophesied. And he was told to leave Israel, not to stop, not to go. And another prophet had talked him into coming in his house. And so that prophet, the Lord spoke to him and told him that he disobeyed. He died, which is very unique circumstances. But they were both buried in that grave that Josiah seen and said to leave them bones alone. The prophet that had deceived him was also asked to be buried with him because he knew that his bones would not be dug up and burnt on the altar.
Okay. So he wasn't following the specific instructions, neither to eat nor drink anything, just to deliver his message and get back. And he believed the incorrect message. Then the Lord delivered a message about his death, and thank you for that. There was a lion that met him, and that was the end of this unnamed prophet. Except, as you say, Josephus, of course, we know that nature abhors a vacuum. So we're going to get a name. We're going to get a name at some point for anybody not named in the Bible. That may, in fact, be accurate. We hope so. So as we look at the Josiah reign, let's just summarize. We talked about some of the good things. We talked about the good mother. We talked about the good grandmother. We talked, and it ties in with the lesson here. We talked, what do you think it means to a child to be told, you're special? The Lord has a special assignment for you. You aren't just the child of happenstance, through the natural course of things. You have a special place for doing something for the Lord. Is there anything that we can take away from a lesson here in terms of inspiration, in terms of what it tying in with this overall theme that the convention's exploring about, that Brother Tom spoke about in the theme discourse, what we can do to be an encouragement to children. Not that we'll say, boy, the Lord named you in the Bible, a couple hundred years ago, and but I mean that's not the case. But is there something in a practical sense that we can do? Who has a comment? Okay, Todd, I would have called on you, but I figured you'd thank
Call
you.
on me anytime. So this is a really interesting situation, because sometimes the children, it can lead them to a sense of entitlement and a sense of pride and a sense of one-upsmanship. And so it has to be done very delicately. I think the best experiences that I've had is that when we help our children or our grandchildren by simply holding a mirror up to them so that they can see themselves. And what this does in Josiah's case, it gives him context from the scriptures for that. So when we can give our children context for the scriptures and to help them find their purpose, usually it's best to do it by asking questions so that the children find their own wisdom, but they naturally find it from the scriptures. A good example of how the power of this is in the mezuzah. I think it's Deuteronomy, it's either 11 or 18, but it talks about how important it is that the word of God should be on the doorposts of our house, and we should teach them to our children. So it's a very delicate situation, and entitlement is a really important thing that we don't let happen in that experience. Over.
Okay, and certainly in agreement with you that it's a delicate situation to know what's the right thing to say. Sister Lana, can we get Sister Lana Turner unmuted? Hold on, Sister Lana. Oh, there you go.
Yes, this is a very prosaic example, but one that the Lord blessed us with. We had a troublesome son, and he followed other kids into bad behavior to the point where he was often in front of a judge getting assigned community service. And every time it happened, we told him, you're a good kid and you're behaving badly, and you're a follower and you should be a leader. And he is now a leader of men in the Coast Guard. So the Lord blessed those words to his benefit. Over.
That is, it's always a blessing to hear that the path eventually got into the right direction. And we talked about influences of the mother, the grandmother. We talked about good King Hezekiah. There's a Hezekiah connection we directly know about in the time of Josiah, because the active prophet, short book, but very depthful, is Zephaniah. And Zephaniah is unique, really, in the prophets for giving 4 generations of his heritage, showing that he linked back to Hezekiah. So he was from the kingly line, and he's prophesying during this period. And we have so much to explore during this period that I think we're going to pass over question number 3, because we've already had some good discussion on that. But let's just talk about the restoration of the temple. We had the point brought out that the book of the law was discovered. What else about the restoration of the temple and the great Passover that Josiah instituted? What else can we say about that? So we're kind of linking in into question 4, and we're going to be probably dipping our toes into question 5 now. Okay, Brother Gary, thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, as Janet mentioned earlier, when the book of the law, whatever book this was that was found, I think to help maybe start answering your question was that, and I wrote down, I think what started during Josiah's reign was a rebirth of faithfulness, rebuilding trust in God in the temple, and discovering the law that had been largely lost to the people through their unfaithfulness. So, again, he took responsibility for that, and he had to promote that because it hadn't been promoted before him by his father.
Okay, or going back down that whole line of kings, there, this was definitely not being promoted. And we find that he's going to institute this Passover. And again, I'm going to just go back into share screen mode to bring up a visual here to see if this helps with our, let's see. So let's get back into this. We're going to pass over that. Okay, so this is what we believe Solomon's temple would have looked like, and we find out that it's been left and neglected. In fact, there must have been there was something valuable on the floor. It got torn up and needed rebuilding, so the temple was unworkable. But Hilkiah, okay, that's the name to remember. Hilkiah found the book of the Lord, and then had the scribe bring that to be read. And possibly, it's important to know who the names of these two people are, but the other complication may have been that actually, as the script changed over the centuries, you may have required somebody who was quite learned to go and read the script. I think some of you have seen that something very, very exciting has happened in terms of biblical archaeology during the last year, during actually, I think the last 7-8 months. There's been a little lead, I don't know what to call it, but it was a little piece of lead that was written on that includes the name Jehovah or Yahweh, and in a slightly different script than the archaic script you're seeing here. And it was part of what somebody would put in when the law was read. There were the blessings and the curses. And this was actually, it's one of the curse tablets that said, if I don't do this, I'm cursed. And this has been located. It was actually passed over in an earlier archaeological study. Archaeologists are going back through the middens, the stuff that was thrown aside when excavations are made, and they found this, and it's been possible to read it using the current CAT scans, the same as we use medically, and they found they're able to read what's on the inside, never opening it, and they see the name of the Lord in there, and it goes. It's possible that you would not have had a script that would have been readable directly. So Josiah gets this delivered to him, and he decides that he's got to, he's very upset. He rends his garments. And that brings us up to where we're going to stop sharing the screen. But who was Huldah? All of a sudden, out of nowheres, we have these two good priests, and then we find out about Huldah. Tell us. This is question number 5. What do we know about Huldah, and who is she, and what does she say? Who wants to get us started on that? He's quite a character. Okay, get us started, Gary.
Sorry. I'm going to just read what I wrote down here because it was really interesting. And I don't ever remember hearing her name before. Huldah was a prophetess, the wife of Shallum, whose family appears to be involved in wardrobe clothiers. It doesn't say if Huldah was employed in this matter or as a prophetess, but it appears that that's what she was.
Okay, so she was a prophetess. Is this the first prophetess we meet in the Bible?
No, Deborah.
No, yeah, Deborah's the first, I think, and possibly we might want to count in Miriam, but Deborah, I would agree. That would be my answer too. We've had other prophetess examples in the Bible. It doesn't happen often, but you see, in this particular case, we had apparently what was a godly grandmother, a godly mother. We have a godly prophetess, and she's as Gary said, she's employed taking care of the wardrobe. So she's in the temple complex. And why do you think they went to Huldah? I mean, you know, you had the high priest, you have the scribe who can read the book of the law, and everybody says, well, we're going to go to Huldah. Why did they go to Huldah? Gary got us going on this, but let's why did they go to Huldah? What's the thought? Who wants to get us? Okay, Sister Janet. And then I see somebody on the other side, but I can't quite see who that is. Behind the.
Janet first. Oh.
I wrote this down in my notes, but I didn't write where I got this idea. But I think she was a consultant in one of the schools, and maybe Josiah attended that school.
Okay, because it uses the term college, doesn't it, in the King James Version of the Bible. So we would see the temple area would be one of the places where education of the youth took place. And, you know, one of the very, very important societal decisions is, do you see your women as important parts of the educational process? Should they be educated? Societies go two really different directions when they make the decision on that question. And there's some societies, and specifically those that are celebrating Ramadan, even as we're looking at Passover and the memorial, who have some of those have come to the decision, nope, the less the better. You know, they're too much, you know, well, anyway, we don't want to put words into their mouth, but the less the better. What do we learn about Huldah, and why do they go to Huldah? We talked a little bit about the college. What else? What else can we say? Yes, please.
This is Sister Teresa Sutherland. I just had that at the time, what I found was that Jeremiah was not in Judea at the time, and he had traveled to Assyrian Empire. So they went to the king's messengers there, went to Huldah. That's what I had over.
All right, because we, you know, as you are seeing, we're coming to the close. We're coming to the close of the two tribe kingdoms having their own king to reign. Thank you for that, Sister Teresa. Jeremiah was active, Zephaniah was active, and the thought is, well, maybe Jeremiah was in the area that today we would call Mosul, Iraq. That's where Nineveh's capital, the capital of Nineveh. If you're in right on the outskirts of the city, the earthworks from the walls are extend for miles and miles and miles. And this was the world power of the time, really horrific, brutal world power that was about to get out of power, and Babylon is going to become the world power. So there's a lot of political uncertainty in this period, but that's for the next two questions. Anything else we can say about Huldah? Why did they go to Huldah? Okay, yes, please.
I think that like Barak went to Deborah and wouldn't go without Deborah because Deborah had the face of the Lord. I believe that Josiah and all of them would have known that Huldah had the face of the Lord at that time, and it would have been well known that she was able to converse with the Lord. Over.
Okay, thank you. If we can unmute Suzanne, I see you've got a comment, dearest.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, just fine.
So why didn't they go to the priests? Well, 1 Kings 13:33. After this thing, Jeroboam returned not from his evil way, but made again of the lowest of the people priests of the high places. Whosoever would, he consecrated him, and he became one of the priests of the high places. Now, I remember that Eli's two sons, when Samuel was reigning, his two sons were priests, and they did not follow the way of the Lord. So perhaps the reason why Huldah was approached was because they did know she was a godly woman and that she could be trusted.
Okay, godly woman and trusted. Now, but when we look at Jeroboam, now that's for the 10-tribe kingdom. And all of, and we even looked on the prophecies linked to the altar that Jeroboam had built being desecrated and so forth. The 10-tribe, now we're focused on the 2-tribe. This is in Jerusalem itself here. And this priesthood does have legitimacy. It's not the Jeroboam priesthood. So we want to be cautious on that as we go through the history. But
excuse me, I shouldn't have said that.
No. I'm glad. If you bring up a comment, and this is why we want to make sure we get the history of the scriptures clear in our thinking, because there is so much in the way of lessons there. And I know this isn't in the Bible, but I do like the Nomic that is attributed to Herodotus, saying history is philosophy teaching by example. And that is truly, the reason that we look at this. We can see the whole history that led up to Jeroboam, and the way in which Solomon married an Egyptian wife, and the whole way that went downhill for Israel and as the 12-tribe kingdom. And then you had the split. You had, lessons of problem after problem with these kings. But here is the good king. He's got a good grandmother. He's got a good mother. And when push comes to shove, they've got to go. They go behind to the. We would think that the college and the wardrobe would be behind the temple there, and here's Huldah. So Huldah is a figure we want to focus on just for a minute, because what does Huldah say about everything that Josiah says? This really looks awful. We've really departed from the Lord. You can see I'm upset. I've torn my garments. That's what you are supposed to do when you're upset. What does Huldah say to those who come and ask her about what's going on? And possibly this is because Jeremiah's out of the country. He's several hundred miles away. I don't know. I haven't explored that one. But if he's way up in Nineveh, he would be with Assyria. He would certainly not be in the neighborhood. So what does Huldah say? Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to share screen for a minute. So let's bring up.
We've lost your sound. We've lost your sound, Brother Richard, and we're looking at a blank screen. There we go. Okay, it looks like Brother Richard's going to have to log back in. Lost him temporarily. This never happens.
This is really hard to study in person and online. That's super hard.
Yeah.
Kind of shaking in my boots. Everybody, y'all better speak up. I'm going to get lost this afternoon. Yeah, hopefully, but we have to know what I'm doing.
I think we all know where we're going, so we hope anyways, right? So technically we're never lost. We're just exploring along the way.
Do you think that the evil King Manasseh had any influence over his grandson?
Brother Ken?
I think that evil King Manasseh did repent at the end of his at the end of his kingship, so he might have had influence on Josiah. I think it's interesting that Huldah was of the school of the prophets, and when you tie Josiah, you can go take it all the way back to Samuel, who we think started the schools of the prophet. And there's a prophetess that's involved in Samuel, which would have been his mother Hannah. And so when you look at that, I think you traced down that was this the reason that they were brought in, or was this the reason the Lord had it? Maybe because it's painting a picture of what's going on there. We know that what Josiah did before he instituted the Passover, he had when you look at what Samuel did, part of his work was to institute the priesthood. The priesthood was in array at the time of Samuel. And when you get to this time in Josiah, what he does is he completely burns down the altars. He smashes them to powder. Before he can do anything with the Passover, he completely does that. And it's interesting that he takes the bones and he burns them upon the altar. And I think that points prophetically, just as Samuel pointed prophetically to Christ, this points prophetically to Christ also. When you consider the prophecy of that not a bone of his would be broken when we speak about Christ. And when we think of that, how miraculous that was, we think about, Christ in his former form was the Logos, and not, he was the word of God. And so we look at that, not a word of mine shall return unto me void, but shall accomplish all that I put forth. When we go back to Jeroboam and we go back to prophecy, we see this upon the altar, because the men that prophesied this, he didn't burn their bones and he didn't remove their bones. And so it's just, there's so much in this that it's just amazing to me.
The amazing part to me is how quickly it can corrupt. You look at King David, who was not able to construct the temple, right? Right? I mean, he had the instructions, but he wasn't allowed to complete it. Solomon builds this temple. Within his 40-year reign, he's got idols in it because of the women that he married, and, you know, illicit marriages and idol worship. And he allowed all that to come into the temple in one generation. So that's how quick it can corrupt. I know he was remorseful and sorrowful and repentful at the end, and he realized that all that he had was vanity and worthless anyways. You know, and that's kind of how we all reflect towards the end of our lives, at what we accomplished and what we did wrong. But I just think it's amazing how quickly one generation can fall away from God.
Excellent point. Apparently my Zoom connection quit for whatever reason, so I'm not going to try any share screens again. I can hear there were some good comments going on while I was getting linked back in with you, and we can see, you know, to just follow up on the point here. Even though, you know, we have this prophecy from Huldah that is not saying if you do good, you know, the nation will be spared. What's Josiah trying to do with bringing the Passover back? And there's quite a bit on that, and that's pretty much all we'll be able to cover in question 7 before we close our study. What were the reasons? You know, this is Passover time. We're in Passover today. Okay, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread today. What is the what was Josiah hoping to accomplish with this great Passover and providing for it? You'll notice they talk about how much was provided from the royal from the royal treasury for celebrating this Passover. Why did he try to do that? What was the thought? Okay, I see a hand up, but I can't quite see who
That's
that
Brother
is.
Ken Allison.
Oh,
Brother
Ken,
Ken
okay.
again. Apologize. In 2 Kings 23:21, and the king commanded all the people, saying, keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant. He was trying to get Israel back into covenant relationship with the Lord. Instituting the Passover would have been part of instituting that law of the Lord.
Okay, and amongst the Israelites is the Passover. It's a Hag, of course. It's an important holiday, but is it a feast, or is it a fast? Feast or fast? Because the holidays go 2 different directions.
Ramadan.
Ramadan is okay. From morning to dusk fast.
Yes.
Maybe they go past dusk. I don't know, but yeah, it's an all-day fast. How about Passover? Yes.
Maybe this might be wrong. It's a fast of sin. There's no leaven. And it's a feast of the law. I mean, at the end of it, it's the lamb, but they do eat during it. Over.
They do eat, but they don't have any leaven in the house. That's the important thing to clear out. And of course, we pick up on that as we go through our pre-memorial studies. And look at the nature of this festival. but we'll get Sister Lori's comment. Sister Lori, can you make Sister Lori unmuted, and we'll hear her comment. We're almost at the end here.
I would think that it would have like a cleansing nature aspect behind it. They would have to think about the nature of their behavior behind what's going on in their lives. So.
Good. Okay, and Sister Lori, because we've all been through pre-memorial, what are some of the things that you're required to do as a Jew for Passover? We talked a little bit.
Well,
I don't mean
yeah,
to put you on the spot, but I'm not
okay.
real pained at putting you on the spot. So you've been through enough pre-memorial studies.
Well, I just think of one of the, I don't know exactly, yeah, you're putting me on the spot, but I just think of I'm just going to think of the hymn that we just sang for memorial was Cleanse Me. I think it was hymn 52. And I mean, I guess that's just where I'm at. My mind isn't, I don't have a real thinking mind, so I apologize that I have to study these things.
You know, Josiah is interested in getting the people back to the Lord, and they're
Yeah.
starting with cleansing
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah.
They've got to clean up the house.
Yeah, they have to clean everything. They have to, they have to be clean. Everything's got to be cleaned, and everything has to be aspected on that thought. And that's my thought there. They have to be clean over.
Okay, so you know this isn't one of those sort of things where you go to the temple and the sacrifice is there and you participate and you go home and whatever your home is, that's your home. This is the festival. It starts with clean up the house. Check the corners with the candle to make sure all the hummus is gone. And then they have this joyful feast. Although with what are the things they have besides the lamb?
Herbs.
Oh, I don't mean to put Sister Laura in the spot. Let me just go back. Anybody can. Anybody.
Well, we in the room.
Bitter
herbs was mentioned.
Bitter herbs.
Unleavened.
Bitter herbs, no leaven. The picture of sin. Okay, so he's trying to do something that gets the people in their house involved, and then on the night the children have a role. They're supposed to say, "Why is this night different from every other night?" And the parents have a role. They're supposed to say, "Oh, this is because it's the Lord's Passover, when he passed over the children of Israel. This is a joyful feast. Everybody's involved in their house. Everybody's involved in the service, from the kids through the, up through the parents and grandparents. And this was the right one to try to start bringing the people to focus again on the Lord after their idolatry. And we're at the last minute, so we're going to have to turn this back over to our chairman. But thank you, brethren, for your participation. I hope you find this as interesting a topic for study as I did, and appropriate for this season. And the Lord bless you. Thank you.